Application templates are a way to define common patterns in applications. These can be used to assist new users in onboarding their applications or to more tightly control governance across applications. In general, if you're utilizing application templates, you'll likely want to take advantage of component templates as well. Components are going to inherit tags, processes, settings, and properties from their templates, which in turn makes utilizing application templates much easier. In order to create an application template, you'll first have to navigate to the Application tab, under which there'll be a Template sub-tab which you can click into. Here you'll be shown a list of existing application templates, and you'll be allowed to create new ones given you have the correct permissions. Here we're prompted for the typical application parameters as well as required component tags. Given that you have defined one or more component tags, you can choose any number of component tags. And for each of those tags, you can set a restriction on how many components with the tag you expect the user to provide when creating the application. This could be a restriction like more than one, something more restrictive like less than 3, or very restrictive, like exactly 1. After saving your application template, you now have the ability to define property definitions. This allows you to define a common set of properties that each application using this application template should provide. Users will be prompted for these values when creating an application template. Now that our application settings have been defined, we can now define the deployment processes for our applications. Processes defined on an application template have a smaller set of available steps for use, since you likely won't know what components an application will be using. Instead, there are a few multiple type steps for use. These steps can also be used in typical application processes. Each step will require you to specify the name of the component process to run for each component on the application. So if you are using a component template for your components, it's easier to be certain that your components will have the designated process. If the component does not have the specified process, then it's going to be skipped in the execution. Next, we need to template our environments. But before we do that, we'll have to take a quick detour to create some resource templates. These resource templates are going to define what the base resources for our environment will look like. For each place you expect you'll see an agent in the tree, you'll need to place an agent prototype. And instead of mapping components directly, you'll also want to use component tag resources. Component tag resources are essentially a wildcard resource that will match any component in an application with a specified tag. Now that we have our resource template defined, we can define our environment template. When creating an environment template, you'll be prompted for all the normal fields of an environment and 2 additional fields. The first additional field is for the resource template, which we have defined in our previous step. The second additional field is for the security type of the environment. When creating an application from a template, environments created will be mapped to all the teams the application is mapped to, but only as the security type specified here. If you set your environment template to require approvals, then now is when you would define the approval process. This approval process will be used by all environments that are created using this template. Finally, the last step in defining our application template is to specify environment gates for all the applications using the template. Environment gates restrict which versions can be deployed to each environment by requiring they have certain statuses. These can be key to the governance process, as it can require that a user in a specific role assign a status to a version before deploying it. If you are an administrator defining these templates for other users, then you'll likely want to do some configuration on your users' permissions. 3 new permissions have been added to existing objects: create components from template, create applications from template, and create environments from template. Splitting the create permission into 2 separate permissions allows you to restrict users to only creating objects from templates. If a user is not going to be creating or updating a template, then the permissions should be restricted to view only, as updates to the environment template and application template will cascade down to the environments and applications created from them. At this point, we've finished defining our application template, and it should now be ready for you or other users to consume.